I never believed in fate, least not until the night it found me. The air was sharp with autumn, chill as I walked home along the empty road that cut through the forest. Street lights didn't reach this far. Only the pale glow of the moon spilled across the asphalt, making the world look silver and strange. My breath clouded in front of me, but my chest felt hot, restless. Like something was about to happen. I should have felt uneasy walking alone that late, but I didn't. Not until I sensed it. That prickling on the back of my neck. The instinct that says you're not alone, even when your eyes insist you are. I paused. Leaves rustled, though the wind was still. The shadows of the trees seemed thicker, heavier, as if they leaned closer to listen. That's when I saw him. A man stood a few yards away, half hidden by the edge of the forest. I hadn't heard his footsteps, hadn't seen him approach. He was just there, watching me. The moonlight struck his face and my heart lurched. He was beautiful in a way that didn't feel safe. Sharp cheekbones, dark hair, damp as though he'd walked through the rain, and eyes. God, his eyes. They glowed faintly, catching the light like an animal's. Too bright, too intense. I couldn't look away. Something inside me pulled tight as though an invisible thread tied my heart to his. It wasn't just attraction, it was recognition. Like I'd been waiting for him without even knowing it. My blood hummed in my veins, my skin tingled, and every sense screamed mine. But his expression was nothing like mine. His jaw locked, his fists clenched at his sides. And those eyes, those impossible eyes, burned with anger. Or maybe fear. I swallowed hard, forcing words past the knot in my throat. "Do I know you?" His lips parted, but the answer never came. He turned abruptly, shoulders tense, and stepped back into the trees as though I were a danger to him. "Wait," I called out, my voice carrying too loudly in the silence. For a moment, he froze, and our gazes locked again across the space between us. My pulse hammered, desperate for him to stay, to speak, to do something, but then he shook his head, slowly, firmly. "No," he said, voice low and rough, like gravel dragged over stone. And just like that, he vanished into the darkness. I stood there, trembling, clutching the strap of my bag so tight my knuckles ached. No one had ever looked at me like that. Like I was both the answer and the curse. My walk home felt twice as long. The forest pressed close, the silence ringing in my ears. I told myself I'd imagined it, that the glow in his eyes was just the moon, that the pull in my chest was just fear. But deep down, I knew I was lying. The next morning, sunlight poured through my curtains, painting my room gold. My little apartment looked ordinary again, coffee mug on the nightstand, books stacked messily on the desk, the faint hum of traffic outside. But I didn't feel ordinary. All day at work, I was distracted. Every customer who walked into the cafe seemed to blur into one face. His face, and that word he'd said, no. Not a refusal to my question. A refusal to me. By the time my shift ended, I couldn't shake it. The connection still throbbed under my skin. A restless ache that wouldn't fade. So that night, against every bit of common sense I had, I walked the same road home, past the same trees, past the same shadows, hoping, dreading, and he was there. This time, I saw him sooner. Standing where the moonlight spilled over the road, his posture rigid, his gaze locked on me like he'd been waiting. My heart leaped into my throat. I should have turned back, but my feet carried me forward until the space between us shrank. "Why?" I whispered, breathless. "Why do you keep watching me?" His eyes flickered, gold in the dark. For the briefest second, I thought he might confess that he felt the same pull I did. But instead, his lips pressed into a thin line and his voice came out rough. "You need to stay away from me." The air grew colder. My pulse roared in my ears. "I can't," I said before I could stop myself. "I don't even know you, but I can't." Something broke in his expression, pain, longing, rage, all tangled together. He stepped closer, just enough for me to see the sharpness of his teeth when he spoke. "Then you don't know what you're asking for." The wind stirred, carrying the faint scent of pine and smoke. And for the first time, I realized the truth. He wasn't just a man. There was something else inside him, something wild and dangerous, and it terrified me as much as it thrilled me. Before I could speak, turned away, disappearing into the forest once more. But this time I noticed the way his body moved, too fast, too silent, too inhuman. I stood frozen, breath ragged, the pull in my chest twisting tighter than ever. Whoever he was, whatever he wasn't finished with me. Sleep didn't come easy that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him, those burning eyes, the way his voice cracked between warning and desire. My body felt restless, as though the thread between us was tugging, dragging me toward something I didn't understand. By morning, I had convinced myself it was madness. A stranger in the woods, a dangerous kind of attraction. That was all. But my chest still ached with the need to see him again, so I went back. The sun was slipping down when I reached the road through the forest. The sky bled orange and purple, and the air smelled like wet earth. My steps were steady, but my heart pounded like it already knew I wasn't alone. I didn't have to wait long. He stepped out from between the trees, silent as a shadow, his dark shirt clinging to the lines of his body. His hair was damp again, like he'd been running through rain that hadn't touched me. For a heartbeat, neither of us spoke. The world felt narrowed to just him and me. "You came back," he said finally, his tone more accusation than surprise. I nodded. "And you knew I would." His jaw tightened. He didn't deny it. I should have turned and walked home. Instead, I stepped closer, close enough to see the faint tremor in his hands as he clenched them into fists. "You don't even know my name," he said, almost to himself. "Then tell me," I whispered. His eyes searched mine, something fierce and conflicted flickering in them. Finally, he exhaled. Adrian, the name felt heavy, dangerous. As though speaking, it tied me closer to him. "Adrian," I repeated softly. Testing it on my tongue, he flinched, as though the sound of it on my lips hurt him. Or tempted him. "You shouldn't be here," he said again, voice rough. "I'm not safe." I wanted to ask what he meant, but before I could, a low growl rumbled from the trees behind him. My blood ran cold. Adrian's head snapped toward the sound, his body shifting instantly, protective, like a predator scenting danger. "Stay behind me," he ordered, voice sharp, commanding. I froze, heart hammering as a pair of glowing eyes blinked from the shadows. They weren't his. They were larger, brighter, animal, and furious. The growl deepened, vibrating through the ground beneath my feet. "Run," Adrian hissed, but his own feet didn't move. He stood tall, shoulders squared, like he was preparing for a fight before I could react. The creature lunged from the darkness. I barely caught the shape, a massive wolf, bigger than anything natural, its fur bristling. Teeth bared, Adrian moved faster than thought. One moment he was human, the next his body twisted with a sickening crack of bones and tearing of skin. His shirt ripped apart as fur burst through, muscles reshaping. I gasped, stumbling back, eyes wide with horror and awe. A wolf now stood where he had been. Not like the beast attacking, though. His form was sleek, powerful, his fur dark as midnight. And his glowing eyes locked on the intruder with lethal intent. The two collided with a sound that shook the night. Snarls and growls echoed through the trees, teeth snapping, claws tearing. The fight was brutal, wild, nothing human about it. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. This wasn't a nightmare. It was real. Adrian wasn't just dangerous, he wasn't even human. And yet, every time he was thrown down, he rose again, standing between me and the other wolf as though his only purpose was to keep me safe. Finally, with a savage twist, Adrian drove the other wolf back into the forest. The beast let out a furious snarl before disappearing into the shadows. Silence crashed down. Adrian stood panting, blood matting his fur, his chest heaving. Slowly, painfully, his body shifted back, fur retreating, bones snapping into place. Within seconds, the man stood before me again. Bare-chested, trembling, his skin streaked with scratches and blood. His eyes, those same golden eyes, met mine, filled with exhaustion and something raw. "You weren't supposed to see that," he whispered. My voice shook. "But I did, and I don't care what you are." He laughed bitterly, the sound breaking. "You should care. That thing tonight, Tit, won't be the last. My world will tear you apart." I stepped forward, my hand almost rising to touch him, though fear still coiled inside me. "Then let me in. Don't push me away." His breathing hitched, and for a moment I thought he might let me. His hand even twitched, reaching toward mine. But then his expression hardened, as though he'd slammed a door shut inside himself. He turned away, shoulders stiff. "This is the last time we meet," he said. "Stay away from me, or you'll regret it." And before I could answer, he disappeared into the night once more, leaving me trembling in the silver wash of the moon. But the bond inside me only pulled tighter, louder, impossible to silence. I knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. I told myself I wouldn't go back, after what I'd seen after the fight. After his transformation, any sane person would have run as far as possible, but sanity had nothing to do with it. Days passed. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him, Madrian, bleeding, shifting, standing between me and death itself. His warning echoed in my head. This is the last time we meet. But the bond inside me refused to listen. It throbbed like a wound that wouldn't heal, dragging me back toward him. No matter how much I tried to resist, by the fourth night, I gave in. The forest seemed darker than before, the trees whispering secrets as I followed the path where I'd last seen him. My chest tightened with every step. And then suddenly, he was there. Adrian stepped out from the shadows, his expression carved in stone. He looked tired, almost defeated, but his eyes burned the same way they always did. Golden, fierce, impossible to ignore. "I told you not to come back," he said, voice rough. "I didn't have a choice," I whispered. "You know that?" Something flickered across his face, pain, longing, but he shook his head. "This will destroy you." "Then let it," I said. "I'd rather be destroyed than spend one more night pretending I don't feel this." The words hung between us, sharp and dangerous. For a moment, silence pressed in. Then Adrian stepped closer, his breath brushing my cheek, his hand trembling as it almost touched mine. My heart pounded, begging him to close the distance. But instead, his eyes hardened. "You don't understand who I am." "What I've done, then tell me," I said. "Show me the truth." His jaw clenched. For a long moment, I thought he would shut me out again. But finally, he exhaled, broken. "You saw what I am, but you don't know the rest." I held my breath. "There are rules in my world," he continued. "Bonds, bloodlines, wars you can't imagine. You and I were not supposed to exist together. You were never meant to be mine." The words sliced into me, but before I could speak, he added, softer, "And yet, you are." His hand finally brushed mine, and fire shot through my veins. My whole body trembled at his touch. It wasn't just attraction, it was need. But then his gaze shifted, scanning the trees. "And the moment shattered, we're being watched," he hissed. Before I could ask, shadows moved at the edge of the forest. Figures emerged, 3 men, tall and broad, their eyes gleaming unnaturally in the dark. Adrian stepped in front of me, his entire body coiled like a weapon. "Go home," he whispered, his voice barely human. One of the strangers laughed, low and cruel. "So it's true. The great Adrian has found his mate." The word mate froze me. My heart slammed. Adrian snarled, his teeth sharp in the moonlight. "Leave her out of this." The man's grin widened. "You can't hide her. Fate's bond is sealed, and the Alpha won't forgive you for it." Adrian lunged forward, but the others moved just as fast, circling us. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just danger. This was war. "Run," Adrian shouted, his voice cracking like thunder. But my feet refused to move. "I'm not leaving you." His eyes met mine, blazing with desperation. "If they take you, you'll never come back. Do you understand?" You'll be theirs. The ground seemed to tilt beneath me. I didn't know what terrified me more, the strangers or the truth in his words. The men closed in, their eyes glowing brighter, their bodies tensing like predators ready to strike. Adrian growled, his form already shifting, bones snapping, fur bursting through skin. The sound of it sent chills through me. He was powerful, deadly, but he was outnumbered. I stumbled back, torn between fear and the ache in my chest. If I ran, I'd lose him. If I stayed, I might lose everything else. One of the strangers lunged toward me, teeth bared. Adrian roared, slamming into him before he could reach me. The forest erupted in chaos, snarls, claws, the metallic scent of blood, and in the middle of it, one thought screamed through me. I wasn't just caught in his world. I was part of it now. The choice wasn't his anymore. It was mine. The forest was alive with violence. Adrian fought like something ancient, his massive wolf form tearing into the intruders with a fury that made the ground shake. Blood stained the leaves, snarls cracked the night, and still more shadows pressed in from the trees. I stumbled backward, my heart slamming against my ribs. The air reeked of iron and earth, of fear and power. I should have run, but my body wouldn't obey. My eyes clung to Adrian, every brutal strike, every desperate growl. He wasn't just fighting for his life. He was fighting for mine. One of the strangers broke through, eyes blazing, teeth dripping with hunger. He lunged at me, and I barely had time to scream before Adrian threw himself between us. The impact sent them both crashing to the ground. Adrian's claws raked deep, his snarl thunderous. But the other wolf was just as strong. They rolled across the dirt, a blur of fur and fury, till Adrian forced him down, teeth sinking into the beast's throat. The attacker stilled. Silence fell, sharp and sudden. The other two wolves melted back into the shadows, their eyes flashing once before they disappeared into the night. Adrian shifted back slowly, his body trembling, blood streaking his chest and arms. His breathing was ragged, his eyes wild. I rushed to him, hands shaking as I reached for his face. "Adrian, you're hurt." He caught my wrist, his grip firm but not cruel. His eyes burned into mine, golden and desperate. "You don't understand what just happened," he rasped. "They'll come back. They'll never stop. Because of you." The words sliced deep, guilt rising in my throat. "Because of me." He swallowed hard, releasing my wrist. His voice broke when he spoke again. "Because you're mine." The world tilted. My breath caught. The word mine rang in my ears, hot and undeniable. "Mate," I whispered, remembering what the intruder had said. Adrian's eyes closed, his jaw tightening. "Yes, fate chose you. And now? Everyone will hunt you to get to me." 100 questions crashed inside me, but only one broke free. "Do you regret it?" His gaze snapped open, fierce and unsteady. "Every second I fight it." "Yes. But when I look at you," his hand lifted, brushing against my cheek, his touch trembling. "When I breathe you in?" "No, never." My chest burned. The ache between us was unbearable, the bond pulling tighter, demanding what neither of us could deny. "Then stop fighting," I whispered. For a heartbeat, he froze. Then, as though something inside him finally snapped, he pulled me against him and crushed his mouth to mine. The kiss was fire and hunger, desperate and consuming. My knees buckled, my hands clutching at his bare shoulders as heat rushed through me. Every inch of me screamed, "Yes, yes." His lips moved with raw need, his body shaking against mine. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't safe. It was everything I'd been aching for. Everything he'd tried to keep from me. When he finally tore his mouth away, his forehead pressed to mine. His voice shook. "This will destroy you." "I don't care," I breathed. "I'd rather be ruined by you than live without you." His breath hitched, and for once there was no denial in his eyes. Only hunger. Only love. But before he could speak, the sharp crack of a branch split the silence. We froze. From the darkness, a new figure emerged, taller, broader than the others. His presence filled the clearing like a storm, his eyes glowing brighter than Adrian's. colder, crueler. Adrian, the man said, his voice deep and laced with authority. You've broken the law. Adrian's body tensed, pulling me behind him in one swift motion. His voice was a growl, low and furious. Alpha, my blood ran cold. The leader. The Alpha's gaze slid past Adrian to me, sharp and merciless. His lip curled into a smile that chilled me to the bone. So this is the girl, he said. The little human who dares to hold your bond. Adrian snarled, his entire body shaking with rage. You'll never touch her. But the Alpha only laughed, the sound deep and cruel. You think you can defy me? You think you can keep her? His eyes glowed brighter, locking onto me like a predator choosing its prey. No, Adrian. She belongs to me now. The forest seemed to close in, the bond inside me twisting with terror and defiance. And in that instant, I knew whatever happened next would change everything. The Alpha's words cut through me like a blade. She belongs to me now. I felt Adrian's body tense in front of mine, every muscle coiled tight. His snarl rumbled low, dangerous, the sound of a man ready to burn his world to the ground. But the Alpha didn't flinch. His golden eyes gleamed with authority, cold and unshakable. He stepped forward, and even the trees seemed to lean away from him. You know the law, Adrian, he said. A wolf doesn't claim a human. The bond is forbidden. To break it, you either give her to me, or you die with her. My breath caught. My stomach dropped into ice. Adrian's voice was low, hoarse with fury. You'll touch her over my dead body. The Alpha smirked, as though that was exactly what he wanted. I clutched Adrian's arm, trembling. Adrian, please. He turned his head slightly, his eyes meeting mine for the briefest second. They were wild and broken, but filled with something that stole my breath. Love, run, he whispered. But I couldn't. My feet refused to move. The bond chained me to him, pulling tighter with every heartbeat. Leaving him wasn't an option. The Alpha's laughter filled the clearing. Look at you. Weak, tied down by fate. She will ruin you, Adrian, just like she ruined your brother. I froze. Your brother. Adrian's face went pale. His eyes flickered with anguish. The Alpha's grin widened. Didn't he tell you? You're not the first human he's doomed. His brother fell for one, too. She died screaming. And Adrian, his gaze slid to him like a knife. Adrian killed his own blood to end his suffering. The world spun. My chest constricted. I looked at Adrian, desperate for denial, but his silence was enough. Tears stung my eyes. Is it true? Adrian's jaw clenched. His voice cracked. Yes, but I swore it would never happen again. Pain lanced through me, sharp and unbearable. The man who protected me, who kissed me like I was his salvation, is also a killer. But before I could speak, the Alpha lunged. Adrian met him head-on, their bodies colliding with a sound like thunder. The force knocked me back, sending me crashing against the ground. Dirt filled my lungs as I scrambled up, watching in horror as they fought. The Alpha was stronger, faster, his strikes brutal and merciless. Adrian fought with everything he had, but blood already streaked his skin, his movements slowing under the weight of wounds. No. I screamed, my voice breaking. The Alpha's hand wrapped around Adrian's throat, lifting him like he weighed nothing. Your defiance ends tonight. Time slowed. I saw Adrian's face, bruised, bloodied, yet his eyes, those burning golden eyes, locked on me. He wasn't begging for his life. He was begging for mine, and I knew in that moment. What I had to do, the bond pulsed inside me, hot and alive, more than love, more than blood. It was fate. It was power. I stepped forward, my hands shaking, and shouted, "Stop." The Alpha turned his gaze on me, amused. What will you do, little human? I lifted my chin, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear my own words. Take me, not him. Break the bond through me. Adrian's eyes widened, horror flooding them. No, don't you dare. But the Alpha's smile was sharp, triumphant. He released Adrian, who collapsed to the ground gasping, and stepped toward me. You'd give yourself up so easily? He asked. Tears streamed down my face, but my voice didn't shake. I'd give everything for him. Adrian struggled to his feet, staggering, blood dripping from his mouth. No, Don T. Toucher. The alpha ignored him, reaching for me. His hand, cold and heavy, closed around my wrist. A jolt of pain seared through me, like fire crawling up my veins. The bond screamed inside me, tearing, splitting, breaking. I cried out, falling to my knees, but I didn't let go. If this was the only way to save him, I'd endure it. Adrian roared, shifting in an explosion of fur and fury. He slammed into the alpha with a force that shook the earth. The grip on my wrist broke, and I collapsed onto the dirt, chest heaving, vision blurring through the haze. I saw them, two titans locked in a battle that could only end one way. Adrian's wolf form, bloodied but unyielding. The alpha, monstrous and relentless. And me caught in the middle. My sacrifice only half complete. My bond to Adrian flickering like a dying flame. If he lost, I'd lose everything. If he won, I might never be the same. The clearing echoed with their snarls, with my sobs. With the sound of fate itself breaking, this wasn't just a fight. It was the end of everything we'd known. The fight was chaos, gnarls, blood, claws striking flesh. I could barely breathe, my body still trembling from the alpha's touch. From the bond inside me, cracking like glass. Adrian's wolf form was a storm of rage, golden fur streaked with red. The alpha moved like shadow, faster, heavier. Each blow making the ground quake beneath them. I tried to stand, but my legs failed. All I could do was watch, helpless. As the man I loved bled for me, and then I saw it. Adrian faltered just for a heartbeat. The alpha slammed him down, jaws snapping at his throat. A scream tore from my lungs. Adrian? Something inside me broke. Or maybe something finally awoke. The bond. It wasn't just pain. It was power. I pressed my palm against the earth, focusing on him, on us, on every touch, every glance, every word that had pulled us together against the laws of his world, and the bond answered. A surge of heat shot through me, rushing into the clearing like fire set free. The alpha recoiled, his grip loosening. Adrian rolled away, staggering to his feet, his eyes burning brighter than I'd ever seen. He looked at Minot in shock. Not in fear, but in understanding. The bond had given me a piece of his strength. Together, we stood. Adrian lunged again, faster this time, fueled by something beyond fury. He sank his fangs into the alpha's shoulder, tearing flesh, forcing the monster to the ground. The alpha roared, thrashing, but Adrian didn't let go. Blood darkened the earth. The sound of bone cracking filled the air. And then silence. The alpha lay still. Adrian pulled back, chest heaving, eyes glowing with victory and sorrow all at once. Slowly, painfully, he shifted back, collapsing to his knees in human form. I dragged myself to him, my hands shaking as I touched his blood-streaked face. Adrian, his smile was faint, broken. You saved me. Tears blurred my vision. No, we saved each other. He brushed his fingers against my cheek, leaving streaks of red. You don't understand. You used the bond. No human has ever done that. His voice trembled. You're not just mine. You're part of me now. My chest tightened. I felt it too, the bond, no longer fragile, but alive, burning inside us both, unbreakable. But with it came fear. The pack would never forgive what we had done. Their alpha was dead. Their laws broken. We were outcasts now, hunted by those who had once called him brother. Adrian seemed to read my thoughts. His eyes, weary but fierce, locked on mine. We'll run if we must, fight if we must. But I won't let them take you. Never. I wanted to believe him. No, I did believe him. Because he had chosen me over everything, even his own kind. The forest was quiet now, too quiet, as if holding its breath. The moon hung low, casting silver light over the blood-soaked ground. I shivered, realizing the cost of our love. Adrian pulled me into his arms, despite his wounds. His body shook with exhaustion, but his embrace was steady, anchoring me to him. For a long time we said nothing. The silence was heavy, but it wasn't empty. It was filled with everything we had endured, everything we had lost, then everything we still had left. Finally, I whispered, "What happens now?" His lips brushed my hair. "Now we live, one day at a time, together." I closed my eyes, pressing my face against his chest, listening to the beat of his heart. Strong, defiant, alive. We weren't safe. We weren't forgiven. But for the first time, I didn't care, because love like this was worth the fire, worth the blood, worth defying fate itself. And if tomorrow brought the pack's vengeance or the world's judgment, then so be it. Tonight, under the broken moon, with his arms wrapped around me, I belonged exactly where I was meant to be. Tass, forever.